NFL Expert Picks presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Here's the slate this week. No international games. 4 teams on byes, including the red-hot Cards, who have won 4 straight. The week begins with a banger. Commanders at Eagles for first place in the NFC East.
Woo!
Oh, Pete, you gained a game last week on Kyle.
Rough week.
Really not much to phone home about?
If I go 6-9 the rest of the year and gain a game or 2 every week, I'd be happy with it.
We're on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
We took new pictures like a month ago, and we're still using your pre-Ozempic pick up there.
I don't
What's
know
going
what
on?
that is. I don't know what that is.
You're handsome, dude.
Kyle missed his best bet finally.
Yeah, well, it was a half a point. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, none of which were his fault.
Bad
He
beat.
texted me in the middle of the game.
This is a nightmare.
Rotten. This is awful.
First drive, Penei Sewell gets spun move by Danielle Hunter. I said, this is a nightmare.
But the thing that went rotten in the game is you lost the game, but when I said they would win the game,
Yep.
and the clip went out and people were giving you crap on Twitter about it.
They were killing me.
Yeah,
but, you know.
Welcome to my
Lions win.
world. Welcome to
Lions
my
win.
world.
Let's get things started here. Chris Hassel with Kyle Long and Pete Prisco. Thursday night football kicks off what should be really the best week of matchups all season in the NFL. It's the Commanders at the Eagles. It's a battle for first place in the NFC East. You know, Kyle, the Commanders coming off that heartbreaking loss to the Steelers. How much more difficult does it make it that you only have a couple days here to get ready for the red-hot Eagles?
Yeah, and not only that, this Eagles team has heard about the Commanders all year long. It's all they've heard about. We've got the best quarterback. We've got the best team in the NFC East. Well, you get an opportunity to go prove that at the Link on Thursday night, and I think this Eagles team's going to come out with their clenched fist, and they're just going to be physical. It's going to be a violent game at the line of scrimmage, and I anticipate the star power in Philadelphia to be too much for this Commanders team.
Well, the score is already 4-0 Commanders, so they're playing from behind because anytime you play Nick Sirianni, you start with 4 points ahead because he'll go for 2, not go for 2, decide to not kick a field goal.
Yell at a fan.
But
they're winning. They're 5 straight.
But despite that, I think the Eagles are the better team. I think they're going to be more physical. The one thing you'll know, it's a primetime game, so you know who's showing up. And when he shows up, he's as good as anybody in the league is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter can be dominant, and I think he can wreck an offense. I think this is a game for him. The secondary's playing better. I think this is a chance for the Eagles to really get going and take a firm grasp of this division. I think they win the game.
Jalen Carter, coupled with the coverage on the back end and those young players who
Mitchell
are just playing cocky right now. They're a cocky bunch.
They're playing well. They're well.
That spells a little bit of disaster for the Commanders.
Yep.
Okay, so you're both going with Eagles -3 to start the week.
Considering our record last week, everybody take Washington.
Yeah, right. Let's go to Sunday night football as we pick the primetime games first. It's Bengals at Chargers, and you know the statistics will point you in the direction of that Chargers defense. They've won 3 straight, but Justin Herbert, Pete, 7 straight games without a pick.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the style of offense that they're playing, but he is throwing it more than I thought he would. And again, kudos to that offensive staff for what they do. And your buddy Mark Trestman's a passing game guy there. Greg Roman, who's a heavy run game guy, but they've kind of mixed it in and done a nice job with it. This is a good team. This is a real challenge for that defense. #1 ranked defense in the league, but they haven't played really any good offenses. They across the board, the Chiefs they played early in the season, that offense wasn't very good. This is a real challenge for that offense. Having said all that, I think the Chargers will find a way. I think they're the better team, better all-around team. They have the defense.
Yeah, that Chargers defense is awesome. When I think about the Bengals, a lot of their offensive stuff is predicated on Joe Burrow having time to throw the football. I like the edge rushers for the Los Angeles Chargers. I also love the offense. You talked about Mark Trestman. They have an identity. There's not a lot of teams in the National Football League with a real identity. The Chargers have one. They can kick your ass between the tackles, and when it comes to getting Justin Herbert on the move outside the pocket, he's become a dual threat guy. In the red area on 3rd down, you have to account for him in the running game. I like Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
They still have not allowed a team to score more than 20 points. Does it happen this week?
They haven't played any good offenses yet.
Will the Bengals get to 20?
Yes.
They'll get to 20. But the Chargers still.
It'll be
the total tells you that they will.
Yeah.
31 Chargers.
31,
Chargers 31-28. Yeah. Okay, that's the pick.
Because Bengals aren't very good on defense.
And we'll cover.
Let's go to Monday Night Football.
This is where it gets interesting.
Jeez. At least it's at night and the sun's not coming in to the stadium. But the Cowboys are getting 7.5 at home. Dak Prescott having season-ending surgery this week.
Yeah, and the quarterback, Cooper Rush, was terrible last week. There's no sugarcoating.
You go to Lance?
I would mix in some
why
plays
not?
for Lance, or let him maybe play him. At least he can run.
What do you
with
have
it.
to lose? They're
You
out
have
of it.
nothing to lose, and I think that's why they're going to cover this number. I'm taking the 7.5. I just think that the number's too high. The Texans haven't really looked that great either, and I think this is an opportunity for whoever plays quarterback to hang around. And you know, one thing that they can do when Parsons is on the field, they can rush the passer. And so I think they'll be able to rush the passer a little bit, maybe get a turnover or two, keep it within a number. They're not winning the game, and I'm probably crazy here for taking the Cowboys, but I'm taking the 7.5. The number's too bloated.
Not a conference game, not a division game, but a Lone Star State bragging right game. I'm going to give the Houston Texans the edge in this one. I just love the quarterback position in Houston. C.J. Stroud showed me in the first half of last game that he is still one of the elites at the quarterback position, and with everything going on with Dallas, I just, I can't in good faith put the Cowboys bet in.
Which city's better?
You tell me.
They're different.
They are different.
Lot different.
I like both of them, actually.
You know what? I had a thought about the Cowboys, though. With all the sun issues they've had, why don't next year they just go get the guy? How do you fight the sun? With the moon. Get the moon ball. Bring Russell Wilson down. He'll throw it above the windows. It'll come down.
Or maybe put a giant curtain up.
That would work.
Yeah, he would hit the, like
Did
the
you see the
punters
press
do, he'd hit
conference?
the scoreboard.
They hit that. Remember they hit that back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are your primetime games this week. Again, no international game Sunday morning, and only one Monday night game. The NFL today, they're going on the road. They're taking that party on the road. They're going to Buffalo for the big Bills-Chiefs game Sunday on CBS.
I'm going to use J.J. Watt's dressing room on Sunday, I think, if he's
Are
going
you?
to be in the building.
Okay. Oh, yeah, because you're staying in New York.
missed
They're
it.
not sending you.
No.
You missed it.
CBS.
You can't even do it.
That is part of the best doubleheader of the season on CBS. It's Bills-Chiefs late window. It's Ravens-Steelers early window. We'll pick that one next. Continuing our expert picks with the 1 p.m. Eastern Time games on Sunday. CBS has 5 of them highlighted by the Ravens and Steelers for first place in the AFC North. And then, of course, that standalone game, 4:25 Eastern, Chiefs and Bills. Let's start, though, with those 1 p.m. games. Ravens -3.5 in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Russell Wilson 3-0 as the starting quarterback there, throwing those moon balls.
And he won a game with the moon ball the other day because the Commanders made a mistake of putting a guy in one-on-one situations and blitzing him when they shouldn't have done that. And they did it, and he threw the moon ball, and they won the game. He completed 50% of his passes.
You going to give him some credit?
Yeah, he made the play. I mean, he had to sidestep a little bit of a rush and made a throw down the field. I give him a lot of credit. The other
Great catch,
touchdown,
too.
not so much. When Pickens caught the one that he threw behind him, but so you can still get credit for 2 touchdowns. One was good, one was not.
Man, you really won't give these Steelers much credit.
No, the Steelers are really good, and they're well coached, and they're tough, and they're physical, and they will get after it. And here's the thing. Their defense is really good. The Ravens' defense has been awful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference in this game. I think he'll complete a moon ball or two. They'll run the ball a little bit. And the defense on the other side will slow down the Ravens. They won't stop them. They'll slow them down a little bit. But I think in the end, I think the Steelers will find a way to win this game.
Yeah, there's no stopping this Ravens offense, in my opinion, with all the things that they have at their disposal at all those different positions that are so key to the offense. But to your point about the defense, the Ravens team has to show up and be a different group than what we've seen. And in this rivalry game in the division, I truly believe that the Baltimore Ravens will show up with a little bit more gusto on the back end of their defense. They're going to make life really difficult for George Pickens. I anticipate them trying to get into his head early, maybe getting a couple flags thrown. We know Pickens is good for losing it a little bit. Yeah, he's the most talented guy on the field, but we also know that he can be a liability at times. So I think the Ravens are going to try to capitalize on
At some point, the Ravens defense is going to play better. It's just that certain guys haven't played as well as they normally have, and they need to elevate their game.
3.5, though, on the road.
Yeah.
Covering that hook.
MVP, Offensive Player of the Year,
I mean, Lamar
John
Jackson
Harbaugh.
certainly looks the part right now.
Come on.
Again, that would be 3 MVPs if he gets it done. Let's move to another game on CBS. If you don't get Ravens-Steelers, you might get Colts and Jets. And again, Anthony Richardson is going to sit on the bench to start this game.
Which is strange to me because at some point, look, Joe Flacco was terrible last week and turned the ball over. It just didn't look like he was in any rhythm. And at some point, you have to go back to Anthony Richardson. They must still think they're in it. And if you still think you're in it, you're going to play Joe Flacco. But he hasn't been very good. On the other side, The Jets were awful last week. And I'm going to say this after watching that game. I haven't watched the tape, but just watching it on TV. They quit. They packed it in. They went home. In the second half of that game, that was some of the worst tackling I've ever seen. And this is not a great tackling team anyways, but they were awful. They were bouncing off guys all over the place. And I think that's a sign of a team that quit. Can they regroup in this scenario? I think in their mind, they still think they're alive. And this is one of the teams ahead of them. So I do think that they'll find a way to win this game.
I think the Jets have a little front runner to them, obviously. And they've also been in these games like last week against the Cardinals. And you saw that group pack it in defensively. And Coach Ulbrich was talking about it. That was the big glaring thing that he saw was bad tackling. And I think tackling is, are you in this thing? Are you committed to being in this football game? And when you're getting your ass kicked that bad against the Cardinals, I can see how some guys could drift. In a game against the Colts where you got to go out and prove yourself, I love the Jets in this spot. I really do. And with everything going on with the Colts offense, their quarterback situation, that may be the only situation that's nearly as bad as Chicago right now on the offensive side of the ball in terms of who's our guy, what direction are we going. I got the Jets.
Now, the offense stunk in that game, too, for the Jets. Don't get me wrong. They were just beat to death up front by the offensive line was terrible. Rodgers wasn't good. Adams dropped balls, and for everything they've done, the defense was supposed to be the one constant, and it has regressed since they fired Robert Saleh.
All right, you still think the Jets are in it, Pete?
I do.
If they get this one?
Well, I mean, the last wild card spot.
Jets are not in it. They will.
I don't think they will be in it. If they win it, can they be in it? Are the Dolphins still in it? If they win it, they can be in it. I mean, the last wild card spot in the AFC is going to come down late this season.
Right now, the team that has it is the Denver Broncos at 5-5, right at 500.
So they're still in it.
Let's go to the biggest spread of the year so far. It's the Lions minus 13.5 at home against Pete's Jags.
And it isn't enough. It's not enough. The Lions probably should have lost last week, and they're coming home after 2 road games. And when you come home after 2 road games, it's always comfort,
warm and
you
fuzzy.
Usually get it going. And Jared Goff didn't play well last week, but
well, that's an understatement.
I think well.
5 interceptions.
There were some
dude, there were some tips, there were some strips, there were some bad bounces.
Routes, there was a bunch of things at play there, but Jacksonville put a lot into last week, played well on defense. The offense was bad. We don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to play in this game. I think this is a bad situation. Detroit, and again, I'm going to reference a game from 1995. They took a knee against Jacksonville. It was 44-0. They took a knee with 5 minutes to go in the game on 3rd and 4th down.
He showed us the tape up in the newsroom earlier today.
It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my entire life. That's how embarrassing.
The Lions fans booed their own team for kneeling up 44-0.
And then they got the ball back, Jacksonville, and they started running like hurry up almost. It was ridiculous. This won't be 44-0. But it might be 38-7. This is going to be ugly. I like the Lions.
With how sloppy things were and how unlucky some of the hops were and some of the plays were for the Detroit Lions in primetime the other night, I truly believe Dan Campbell has his guys focused. And to your point, you're on the road for 2 weeks. You get an opportunity to come home, back inside. You're warm and cozy. They're in Detroit. I think they roll this Jaguars team.
Pete, were you reading the YouTube comments? Because a lot of Lions fans were coming after you last week for never picking them. Always not giving them enough credit.
Apologize.
More at the deadline.
The Lions fans, since they've come out of the woodwork the last couple of years, they've been outstanding. And look, I've been to many a game at their buildings. It's a great place to go watch a game.
I miss the old place. The Pontiac Silverdome.
No, you don't.
The best.
No, you don't.
The best, Jerry.
It was in the middle of nowhere.
Their fans are great. I hated playing in Detroit.
Yeah, they're great.
Let's go to the Vikings and the Texans. And what's Sam Darnold? Because he hasn't been very good the last couple weeks. 5 picks over his last 2 games, Pete.
And he's starting to look like Sam Darnold. I mean, that's the
Turned
fear.
into a pumpkin?
He's turning into Sam Darnold. That's one thing you hoped he didn't do, is he turned into Sam Darnold. And last week, he was awful in that game. And you go back and watch that game, it's even worse when you watch it again. He was so bad. Now they're back out on the road again against the Titans. The Titans' defense, look, it's not great, but they have some players on that side of the ball that can get after the quarterback a little bit. I think that's a problem for the Vikings. I think the Vikings will win the game, but this number's too big. Levis did some good things last week. He threw, early in the game, he hit Ridley down the middle of the field for a big shot touchdown. I think he's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. He got outside the pocket. He ran. Now it's tough to play this defense because they throw so many different looks at you, but I think they hang around in the game. Vikings win it, but Sam Darnold will be Sam Darnold, and turn it over once or twice, and the Titans will take advantage and stay in the game.
I have real concerns about this Minnesota Vikings team who started off so hot, both sides of the ball, you know, obviously undefeated to start the season. But I have even bigger concerns with Will Levis. And after a game where you admitted he played pretty well for Will Levis, that means he's going to go out there with a little bit more confidence. I think you could see that number 6.5 disappear with maybe a pick 6 for this Vikings defense. Give me the Vikings in this one.
Is Levis going to be the quarterback there next year?
We'll know in the next, you know, the course of the next 8 games or whatever it is. What is it, 8? Yeah.
Fighting for his job.
I don't know anymore how many games
No,
are
it's
left.
17, so it's, yeah, 8 games.
Let's go to another big number here, and it's a Dolphins team that picked up a big win on Monday Night Football in L.A. against the Rams, at home against the Raiders, and a chance here for the Dolphins to start a winning streak, because after this they have the Patriots.
Short week for them after traveling back, and you know how hard it is to travel back from the West Coast. That's brutal. After a Monday nighter, that's really tough. And look, they didn't look great on Monday. The Rams looked bad. The Dolphins defense looked good. I don't love the Raiders offense, but I think the Raiders defense will keep them in the game. I think they'll hang around in this one. Number's way too high. I think it's a, you know, the Miami will win the game. It's a field goal game. I'll take the Raiders to the point.
I like this. I think it is, even at this point in the season, it's a hot place to play, South Florida. We saw Christian McCaffrey come off the bus in Tampa Bay last week, and he was sweating bullets. It's no easy task, but at the same time, when I think about the strength of that Raiders front, it's getting after the quarterback. What can Mike McDaniel scheme up? Quick game. Get the ball out of Tua's hand. I think I like that game plan, even on a short week. They're going to keep it simple. Tua looked to be doing all right last night. So let's
Except for when he went and tried to lower his head.
Well, he's not a tackler, Chris. He's not a tackler.
Nor should he try to be.
No. So those are the 5 CBS games in the early window. Let's go to, I would guess, your least favorite rivalry in the NFL, because of how many times the Packers got one over on you as a former longtime Bear.
We beat him on Brett Favre night. I remember that.
That's true. That was fun. That was a lot of fun for Bears fans.
I think.
Shane Waldron has been fired as offensive coordinator and play caller for the Bears, but 23 straight offensive drives without a touchdown. What's up?
The guy's playing tentative, Caleb. He is right now living in fear of making mistakes.
That's how you get sacked 9 times in a game.
And, you know, I would rather Caleb Williams throw 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions than take anything over the number of 7 sacks. 9 sacks against the Patriots. It's indicative of problems that go further and further into that Bears organization than we could ever know. And for that, I'm going to pick the Packers, obviously.
Packers coming off a bye. They needed the bye. Jordan Love needed the bye because he needed to get healthy. I think this is a bad spot for the Bears. You can change coordinators, doesn't matter. The offensive line's been a mess, and Caleb Williams is holding the ball. And he looks for the home run on every play instead of taking the single. He's got to learn. This is the NFL. It's not USC. You got to get the ball out of your hands. But I'm with you. Let it go. Throw it around. Have some fun. If you throw 2 interceptions, big deal. This coaching staff's not going to be there anyways. So have some fun. Let it rip. I've always said I'd rather have a quarterback who throws for 354 or 3 and 2 than one who throws for 180 and doesn't turn it over. That means he's not trying to throw touchdown passes. I'm with you, but I think this is a bad spot for
When I played offensive line, when I'd play against really good defensive linemen, sometimes your brain tells you that you don't want to throw your hands because they're going to swipe them. I feel like Caleb Williams has that mindset as a quarterback right now where he's like, don't make the stupid pass. Well, you know what? The only way you can block guys is if you throw your damn hands and get them on the defensive lineman. It's the only way Caleb will have success. I think Bears fans, the only thing they want to see is Caleb go out there and play fast and loose against his
Throw your hands at me. I'm gonna swipe them because I'm catching you in the bags. I swipe it, I'm going by him.
I'm bringing the right soon.
He gains 1 game in the picks.
Hey, small victories, Chris. Small
But you know
victories.
what I'm saying? You got to believe it. You got to just go let it fly, dude.
You know how bad it is right now for the Bears. Kyle's getting bullied up in the newsroom by Patriots fans.
Yes.
They're like, hey, we've got the better rookie quarterback in Drake May. And
do they?
Look at the Patriots hosting the Rams now, and that's a bad loss at home for the Rams. 3-game losing streak snapped.
Yeah, and it exposed them in a little bit of way. They don't run very fast. They're not fast on the outside. We talked about that on the podcast. I was sitting there watching the game. Everything's played at the force field at 15 yards. They don't have anybody stretches the field. And I think the Patriots will be able to hang around in this game. Drake May's getting better. Demario Douglas is getting better. That offense is getting better, and we know they're feisty on defense, so I'm going to take the Patriots here in this spot.
You know what? This is like the Lions pick I made last week. 4.5 points, which means it's got to be a touchdown for the Rams to win this bet. I'm still going to stick with the Rams, but man, oh man, I'm going to be biting my fingernails for this one because Drake May, this Patriots team, they compete. And I really like the way that this team has responded to being called soft.
Translation, you don't like your pick.
I don't like the pick. I am picking the Rams.
One more in that early window on Sunday. It's the Browns at the Saints, and the Rizzler, Darren Rizzi, got that victory in his first game as interim head coach.
Jameis Winston revenge game. He's coming back. And look, this is an ugly game in so many ways. A lot of injuries across the board for these teams. But I think Cleveland's getting their offensive line healthy. And they made a switch. Did you see they benched Jedrick Wills and they moved DeJuan Jones, the left tackle? And I think the line's starting to play better. I think they play better in this game. I'll take the Browns.
Yeah, I'm taking the better football team here. It's the Cleveland Browns, and that's why it's a simple answer for me.
So how did the Falcons go in there and get beat by the Saints?
The kicker.
That's it? It's just because
Make your damn kick.
They got Rizzied. They got Rizzied.
The Rizzler. It was a crappy start to his day on Sunday, but ended up with
Oh, yeah, it was. He had to flush it.
Sunday is a monstrous day on CBS, beginning with the Ravens taking on the Steelers at 1 Eastern time, and then it's Mahomes versus Allen again, 4:25 Eastern, Chiefs and Bills. And we are picking the biggest game of the week, the biggest game of the season to this point. Up next, it's the Chiefs on the road in Buffalo. What do the boys think? Find out next. Our thanks to FanDuel, bringing us expert picks each and every week from Kyle Long and Pete Prisco. We've got 3 more to go, including the big one, Chiefs-Bills. But we also have a couple other games in that late afternoon window. Falcons at Broncos, Seahawks at Niners. All right, let's get to them, beginning with the Chiefs and the Bills. It's in Buffalo. Isaiah Pacheco could return. They're opening up that window to return off IR this week.
Yeah, that would be huge for them. And even if he doesn't return, I fully expect the Chiefs to understand the magnitude of the moment, what's at stake here in terms of football history. I mean, you're going after being undefeated. You're going after a three-peat, and you got to go beat the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Who better to go prove yourselves? You know, we've been saying this team's a fraud all year. Who better to go prove yourselves against than the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo, New York?
Yeah, they're going after undefeated season. The Bills are going after cachet. You got to beat this team. I mean, this has been your nemesis. This is the team you have to get past. They beat them in the regular season last year. Remember, we were at that game, and that was the game where they threw the Kelsey threw the ball, and they lined up off sides, and they called the touchdown back. So, I think this is an opportunity for Buffalo to prove to people that.
But if they've already beaten them in the regular season before, what's this do? I mean,
well, it's an undefeated
team. Me included. Until you do it in the playoffs, what does it really mean?
Well, because if you win this game, you have a real chance to end up with the #1 seed. There's a possibility you're the #1 seed. So you have to try and get that title game back in there. Now, they lost to them in the playoffs last year.
At home.
Should have won. Hit the shot in the end zone, they win. If the tackle holds up and doesn't get the
I was going to say, what's the matchup that's going to determine this game?
The left tackle.
Left side of the offensive line.
Morris against Russo. If Russo gets going, and he's had a great year, if he gets going, it's going to be a problem for Patrick Mahomes. I think the Bills, and being there in the summer, I know what they feel about this team. They don't like being Karl Malone and John Stockton to Michael Jordan. They don't like being, you know, those teams that all lost to Michael Jordan. They don't want to be the Phoenix Suns and Charles Barkley who lost to Michael Jordan. You want to be that. You want to be the guy who wins it. And to win it, you have to beat him, and it starts here. It's an enormous game for the Buffalo Bills, and I think they find a way to win it.
My only concern is the protection of Patrick Mahomes against this team, because you know that the Bills are going to score points. And when the Chiefs drop back to pass, the question mark is that left tackle. Are we able to get to our landmark as a pass protector? We saw Benito run clean around a chip and the left tackle last week with Suamataia in there. Whoever's at left tackle, they better have a bulletproof plan to keep that blind side of Patrick Mahomes
those guys are rotating in and out,
locked up, because if they don't, it could be a sack, it could be a turnover, and worse than that, Pete.
All right, so you're going Chiefs. Pete's going Bills.
Yes. He has to pick this. This is in his contract. He has to pick this.
Stop it.
All right, again, that one is on CBS, 4:25 Eastern time. The NFL Today crew will be there all day leading up to it. Let's go to a 4:05 Eastern time kick. It's out west. Seahawks at Niners. Christian McCaffrey should be all the way back this week.
I love the Niners in this spot. I absolutely love the Niners. They look like themselves. Christian McCaffrey didn't miss a beat last week. His football shape is going to be a little bit better. I saw he was gassed in Tampa Bay, but it was hot, humid, and he hadn't been running that hard for very long. So get him back in the lineup at home. I love the Niners.
Yeah, the Seahawks are coming off a bye. That gives them a little advantage, but I don't think they're very good on defense. I think this 49er offense, we haven't seen the best of it because they haven't been together. And they're not all together yet, but they're getting guys back. McCaffrey's back. You're going to start seeing that offense start to click. I like the 49ers as well. I think they handle business here and start taking control of this division a little bit.
Okay, both on the Niners, -6.5 at home against the Seahawks. One more game to pick. It's the Falcons, still lead the NFC South by 2 games despite that loss to the Saints, and the Broncos, who hold the last wild card spot in the AFC.
You know, Bo Nix has been playing better and better and better with all the experience
Should've won
he's
that
had.
game.
The defense has been playing really well. Obviously, they had their big letdown against the Ravens, but, you know, Bo Nix scrambled for a touchdown. They threw the flag, and then they called it back. That was the end of that game for them. But in this one, I mean, it's all about who are the Falcons offensively? Can you go against this Broncos defense and make hay? Because I was disappointed in the Falcons last week. I am picking the Falcons again. I think it comes down to experience there at the quarterback position. I don't feel too strongly about it, though. I mean, it's a 1.5 point game there, but give me the Falcons.
I'm going to take the Broncos here. I love what they do on defense. They're playing back-to-back road games, the Falcons, one in the division, one out of the division. That's tough to do, and I just don't like what I saw from them last week, and they can't count on their kicker either. So I think this is a chance for the Broncos to get another victory. I think Sean Payton, you know, he hated the Falcons when he was with the Saints, and he's probably going to hate him here. Yeah. I'll take the Broncos minus the point.
You can't count on the field goal kicking unit, though, if you're the Broncos after that disaster on the left side of the line in that Chiefs game. I mean, we talked about how the Bears were going to have a tough time bouncing back from the Hail Mary loss to the Commanders. You're not worried about the Broncos?
No, not at all. Sean Payton's not Matt Eberflus.
That was different.
All right, there you have it. Let's get to best bets from Prisco and Kyle, presented by FanDuel. Unfortunately, Kyle finally dropped one last week. He had
half a point.
A roll, lost by a half a point. So he's now 8-2 in our 10 best bet picks. Pete and myself, 5-5. The producers, they won last week.
There you go.
Wow.
3-7. And you know what?
Clap it up for the producers.
Yeah. If you're last, you're first. So producers going first. They like the Broncos -1.5 against the Falcons in that game.
on that game.
Yep, with Pete Prisco. That's never a good sign.
Not this year, it isn't.
Pete, what's your best bet?
My best bet is the Lions -13.5. You know what? But you know what? By halftime, it'll be 28-7.
Okay. Well, my best bet is the Texans -7.5 at Dallas.
Well, you're on the other side of the best bet that you didn't like last week.
Yeah, you know, they proved
-7.5 at Dallas.
So you like Houston more than Dallas as a city, then? Is that what you're saying?
You know what? I've had some fun in Houston.
Did you go to Gillies?
The only not fun thing I did in Houston was playing against J.J. Watt. No fun.
No.
Is that more because of the Cowboys and how bad they are?
Yeah, it's definitely about the Dallas Cowboys. This pick is about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care who trots out there, a receiver, a running back, you know, how many yards per carry Joe Mixon has. At the end of the day, I do not trust the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Cooper Rush or Trey Lance? Who do you think is going to play?
I would
give it to Trey Lance. Make it fun.
I would play Trey Lance.
Make it interesting.
You could create some gimmicky stuff for
Yeah,
him.
gimmick it up. It works for a week or two,
It did
right?
for the Bears last year, didn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to my pick. And I'm right there at 5-5 with you, Pete. I'm on the other side of this game. You guys both had the Browns over the Saints. I'm going the other way. Saints.
Wow.
With the Rizzler. I like the mojo he's got going.
The vibe is good.
You don't
the
think
vibe is
it's
great.
one game bump and then that's it?
Well, I fell for this with the Browns earlier in the year. After they got that Jameis bump, I took them the next week and they got smoked. But I don't know. I mean, the Browns, they're not very good. I think the Saints,
by the
at
way,
home.
You're 5-5, but there should be an asterisk next to yours because you had the worst pick of all time. What was that one where there was like 40?
remember that.
What was
What
it,
was
40
that?
something?
I think it was the Cowboys at home against somebody. And
so you got to
You're
put an
right.
asterisk.
That should have. It was
Yeah,
Lions Cowboys.
Oh boy.
That should have cost me 2 games.
You
I
get
think.
2 back.
Nope. So there you have it. Kyle likes Texans -7.5. That's the one you should follow because he's 8-2 in best bets. But I will say this: Kyle also really likes Lions -13.5 against the Jags. That's the largest line of
Would have
the
picked
season.
it. Pete picked it.
Largest line of the year. Before that, it was 13. This is 13 and a hook. All right, best week of the year, you think, matchup-wise?
Great. This is when you start separating the real teams from the fake ones.
And it all starts.
It'd be a lot better if the Bears were good against the Packers.
True.
They're not.
Yeah. Poor Bear went with the Packers, -6.5.